98, 99, 100. Just do like 100 squats right here, just warming up. Welcome to Cruising into the Void, guys. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nagy. With me is my, just chilling, man. My solid carp. How we doing today, Mr. Fish?
A solid carp? I've never heard of that type of carp.
Just solid carp. Like, not the floppy carp. Carpaccio.
Not a magic carp either?
Magic carp. Oh, that's a good name for a fish place. Is a magic carpet. But like, yeah, we'll get there. We'll write that down. So today's topic is health, because obviously, sober October on this health kick, I'm basically like the finest specimen I've ever been. But looking into different things brought up some very funny notions about the entire world of health that I am very inexperienced on. So I'm going to be dabbling on your knowledge for all this. So you ready to bestow some knowledge, my man?
Yeah, let's get into it.
So easiest place to start is with just general. There's no easy place. I'm just getting into it. So for me, there's a couple different aspects of fitness. So like there's your plan. So we've got this whole adventure booklet that I'm following through, which is absolutely beautiful. It is just like idiot proof, step by step. Day 1, do X. Day B, day 2, do B. Like all the things. But getting more into it, I discovered that there's different aspects that I was like, hey, is this a necessary addition that I should acquire? Like materials and resources and things like that? Or is it just like one of those things where someone buys $1,000 worth of entry level stuff and then they're not ready for any of it? So the first one to me was just like basic equipment. And again, for this workout, you did amazing just keeping it very simple of like, hey, get yourself a jump rope, maybe dumbbell like or kettlebells, and you're good to go. But one of the things that I discovered immediately was my footwear. Mm-hmm. And this is something you've made fun of me before, because I was all about the dad shoes on ships. Like Asics are still my go-to. Trail runners, everyday shoe. They're gripping. Like everybody goes, why are you wearing these always? I go, because if I can't climb a tree at any moment in time, you never know. But when it came to everyday life, they were pretty good. Trail running, they were very good. Real running, they are not very good. So then I transferred over. I had a buddy. He jumped on the Hoka train. And I did as well. And those things are phenomenal. You're walking on a cloud. And I actually did run in them a bunch, but I use them every day, all day, every day. And like blew out the backs of them within like 4 or 5 months, maybe 6. And you were just like, that's not what they're for. They're running shoes. So just kind of go into that of like the difference of like shoe styles, if you could.
So I wish this was just even addressed in school. Like, and people don't put their brains together, which blows my mind. Let me put a simple perspective on it. Nagy, you want to buy a Tacoma because Tacomas can go off-road and do all the fun things, right? They can do that. Well,
Great.
You live in a city, so it's probably more efficient to buy a Prius. What are you doing by driving that Tacoma around? Just costing money and gas and not using it for what it's designed for in any way, shape, or form. So it is degrading just as well as the other car, right?
Okay.
So with shoes, they are designed for purposes. Shoes have particular things that basically make your foot land appropriately when you're doing an appropriate activity. When you are running, your foot lands differently than when you are walking, right? Because when we run, we land on our forefoots. When we walk, we just walk heel to toe. So if you're buying running shoes and walking around in running shoes that have all the rubber, all the cushioning and everything up in the toe, you're going to blow them out in a matter of 3 minutes because they're not designed to do that. They're designed to be run on. Now, even further is like people confuse the idea of these big comfy running shoes for like everyday shoes because they just go, oh, I want to be comfy. A wise man,
absolutely.
hold on, wise man once told us that the journey to heaven looks like hell and the journey to hell looks like heaven. So what you do by getting those big comfy shoes is you actually degrade your body because it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. It adapts to these comfortable abilities. So if you walk around all day in 2-inch tall shoes that are giant pillows, and then you get on your bare feet and you go, man, my feet hurt, my knees hurt, my this, that, and the other. Yeah, because you were designed to walk barefoot, bud. You weren't designed to walk on 2-inch comfy shoes. And that's where they completely destroy us.
And it's a very westernized train of thought where it's like, dude, most people that wear sweatpants and yoga pants never sweat or do yoga. Like I am, again, as an overweight person, like if there's certain clothing that are like athletics that don't come in a triple XL for you, like I'm very sorry. Like, you know, quad XL yoga pants, like that person's not doing yoga. It's like a comfortability thing. But that's what I think a lot, at least my personal view is on shoes of like, no, like you said, these are very comfortable. I want to be comfortable all the time, but we don't know about the effects that they're having on our bodies.
The thing is, we do know the effects. I'm not a rocket scientist, right? I'm really not that smart of a person. I'd throw a ball around and teach people how to pick heavy shit up for a living. It's not that hard.
Right.
We just don't educate ourselves in it. In our in our healthcare system is designed, and this is the whole Western philosophy, is fix it when it comes up, not be proactive about the problem so they don't come around. You know? So we'll go, you know what?
We don't prevent them.
Let's wear big comfy shoes until our knee hurts, and then once our knee hurts, we'll get surgery, and then once that's fixed, then we'll finally address all the problems. As opposed to going, you know what? Let's not wear comfy shoes. We'll let our feet work the way they're designed to work, and then life will genuinely become more comfortable, and then my body will work the way it's supposed to, and I will not have these future problems that I have to deal with.
So how many pairs of shoes do you own for your different activities?
I own 3 different pairs of shoes. I would say is the most dynamic. Obviously, within that, you have like dressier versions and
like biking specialized
but I'd
shoes,
say 3 different types of shoes. I have a barefoot shoe that has, on the opposite of Hoka's, 3 millimeters of rubber. That's it. Yeah. Nothing. I have walked around Disney World in these things. I have walked all through Vegas. I've gone on 10-mile hikes in these things, and my feet are incredible. I don't have any feet problems. It took a while learning to it, and my feet hurt because they had to learn how to grasp and use themselves to balance and use all the muscles that are inside of my feet. A lot of people don't realize how many muscles actually run through your foot. Like, it is a shit ton. And then, with that, they grow over time, so my feet get stronger, and every day becomes stronger, and life becomes better than me. Now I feel like I just need to walk around barefoot 24/7. My hiking shoes, which are also barefoot shoes, the only difference is they go up to a 6 millimeter rubber because just stepping on rocks and stuff, you know? Like reasons. Because you need a little more protection.
Yeah, like you don't want things. Like, your foot's strong, but you're still going to want some protection between
it. Just in case you step on something.
So that, like, it just brings up an interesting point, because if it's like, I remember you handed me your like older ones when I came to visit, and you're like, go ahead, try these. And I remember putting them on and standing up, and I was like, these are really comfortable, but I can feel the ground. Like, I can feel your carpet through the shoes. And that was the day we were about to go play like pickleball and stuff, and I was like, if I wear these, they are going to wreck my body. Like, I have to, like, it will break me down before it starts doing the benefits. So I would say, like, a small caveat is, like, if I go get some of those, like, I will start very small, like, hey, I'm walking Disney in these, or I'm going to go get grocery in these, and, like, ease my way in, not like, oh, I'm going to get these and then go walk around Disney for, like, the weekend.
Let me take this conversation a step back, right? We're going to go even further. You said, man, it's going to be hard to walk around in these shoes. Why is it hard to walk around barefoot? Which is what people did for thousands of years before we even designed these 2-inch platform comfy shoes. That shouldn't be a problem.
Callus for me is calluses, straight calluses. When I go stay at like Jared's farm a lot, I'm walking around with the dogs outside. And the first couple days, like if we go there for Thanksgiving week or Christmas week, whatever, the first couple days are painful, and then my calluses start building up or things like that. Ships was really hard. I had like no calluses.
So, what I'm saying is, you're talking about your calluses, but it shouldn't be hard to walk barefoot. That's what I'm saying is the problem. And that's the problem with the healthcare is you're like, you know what? I need to ease into walking around barefoot, which is what you did before you had shoes on, bud. Thousands of years ago.
But that's also thousands of years ago. Like even current times, yeah, we're all comfortable. Like, yeah, I could get like you could go start sleeping on a 1-inch pad or like a hay bale, but like, nah, man, you got Tempur-Pedic now.
I mean,
some things like you adapt to
I'll
different ways. Yeah, fair. So, you know, like to me, all these things, especially with health, because we're so, I'll just say, stop saying me, because I've adapted to so many different things, I can't just go jump back into a crate like, oh, you should be able to lift a third of your body percentage and carry it around. Like, I can't do that anymore. That's going to take me time to get back in. So again, just starting at our feet to go from these 1.5-inch, like I couldn't believe it when I first saw Hoka's. I was like, dude, you are basically in platform, like really stylish platforms. Like we used to make fun of goth kids for this, but now we're walking around in very colorful, like flamboyant ones. And then you're like, okay, now take away 1.5 inches of amazing like foam and just go down to like a piece of leather. You're like, dude, that's gonna take a little bit for me. Like, yeah, even if I was gonna walk barefoot, that's gonna take some time.
Yeah, but I'm saying the problem is that we've adapted to the other one. We've adapted to making it drastically easier. And it just hurts my head when people go, what do you mean you need to walk around barefoot? And you're like, bud, that's how you're designed. Like, that's what the whole of us evolving through time was, for us to be bipeds and use our bottom, I like to call them our bottom hands. I use our bottom hands for walking around, all right? Like, that's why we have the big toe. That's why our foot's designed the way it is. Don't put it in these stupid shoes that make it work completely not the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a book, Barefoot, no, it's not. There's one, it's Running Barefoot or Run Barefoot, things like that, and it talks all about how it changes the alignment of your bones and your skeletal structure and everything because of, like you said, we have adapted to the furthest point. And I think a step further is that so for my shoes, I have everyday shoes and I have Chacos. Those are the two things. And my Chacos are kind of like, you know, they're a thick, solid sole, but they are kind of more ergonomic and things like that. And I wear those two shoes. But again, like I said, my everyday ones are like, I'm either going to go get groceries in them or I'm going on a run in them. Like, those are the two things. Like, I'm doing all the things in them. So I kind of know that I need to make some small changes and stuff like that. But it is very interesting to look at, like, yeah, if you just told me to go run barefoot through a field, it's like I'm not stopping because I'm like tired. I'm stopping because my body's like adjusted out of being able to function on its own without like external like assistance. Yeah, which is a bummer. On a different note, just side tangent, I am a huge fan of grounding, and I think more people in life need to do this. Where
buddy, don't make my head hurt here.
Going outside, going outside barefoot and just sitting there with the earth. That the little spiritual thing. We'll dabble on spirituality a little
Nagy,
later.
Okay, let me ask you. All right. Okay. Do you know how big the Earth's magnetic field is?
Isn't it like 120 miles?
Yeah. So tell me how you think walking on the grass barefoot, that's not already going through your shoes.
Oh, you think I just want that. You need that pure contact.
No,
it's like sex in a condom.
If it's 120 miles big, dude, it's already going through you. You don't need pure contact. Grounding is so made up. the magnetic energy is already going through you, bud. That's why the Earth is protected and why we don't get hit by meteors, and also why we are attracted to the sun.
Yeah, but I mean the difference between feeling grass on your toes, between feeling turf, between just wearing socks and shoes, that's a big
So
difference.
you're talking about the feeling, not the bullshit magnetic fields that everybody says comes out of grounding. You're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
no,
just
no, no.
feeling grass in your toes. You're not talking about grounding. You're just talking about walking around barefoot.
I mean, I would say it's a different. Yes, sure. I think yes, I agree to what you're saying, but more of like go ground yourself by touching the earth
Okay.
and feeling different sensations besides being encapsulated in your shoes and stuff like
You're
that.
just saying
Like
touch grass.
go basically. I was just running through. I was like, I'm just telling people to go touch grass. Amazing. But no, like to me, there's a huge difference between if you go stand in the wilderness with no shirt on and you're like, wow, these are the elements, or you're standing in your perfectly climate controlled house watching a nature documentary. Like
Okay.
those are two very different things. So yeah, like I
I
said, I'm
thought you were
agreeing with
talking
you. Like none
about
of the
there are a
the
lot of people
magnetic
that
field.
believe in grounding, that you put your feet on the magnetic force that's coming through the earth because the rubber stops it. And that's what helps reduce inflammation, improves your sleep, makes you find center,
Oh
all that
no.
shit. That's different than
Well,
just getting out and being barefoot.
that's like people that used to, or the fad, or actually the health thing where people like to get sun on their bing hole, where you like get
Hmm.
you go spread eagle and you show your butthole to the sun, and by
Hmm.
getting sun directly on that, it's good for your soul. It's like I think you're just actually getting vitamin D for the first time in a while. So
Hmm.
yeah, take that how you will. There's always, different things. I'm all about spirituality, but when it comes to that much, no, I think I'll agree with you of like, nah, the Earth's a little too big for you to like miss it by an inch versus feeling it on your feet.
The
So
Earth's magnetic field is huge, bud.
yeah. So back to shoes. What would you recommend for me?
I
Because we've been doing this
genuinely,
workout.
there
Okay.
is, and here's the other part, is the shoes I'm about to recommend you are a third of the price of those fancy shoes that destroy your feet. And they last longer because you learn to walk appropriately. So my personal favorite brand right now is called Zero Shoes,
Okay.
Xero. They are a completely barefoot company. That's their whole thing. None of their shoes have more than like 3 millimeters of rubber. The other thing that people don't talk about is a heel drop. So essentially, what a heel drop is it picks your heel up and you're leaning onto your toe, almost like standing up in heels. These shoes have no heel drop because your foot doesn't
Okay.
actually drop in the world. When you're running, though, what they have in those shoes is they do have a heel drop, which picks your foot up because when you're running, you make contact with your toes or midfoot, so it balances everything out. So you are actually walking in heels every day. It's not very big, but that's essentially what you're doing. And that's why a lot of people's toes are
Right.
really
Yeah.
jacked up because they're sliding forward and mashed into the front of those shoes. Whereas these have very big, what's called a toe box, for your feet to actually splay out, because a lot of us don't realize that our toes are meant to do this. They're not
Right.
supposed to be like this. So when you see
Well, that
people,
was one of the whole gimmicks of Hoka cider was that it's like, oh, look at this wide toe box. It's like, yeah, we finally started making shoes that are ergonomic for our feet, not ramming them down into this narrow corridor.
correct.
But yeah, the importance of that, and like you said, these are if you guys want to throw us some sponsors and stuff, I mean, these shoes are actually pretty cheap anyway. So
Exactly,
okay,
dude.
but
You can
carry
get
on.
flip-flops for $15 from them. And the shoes are cheap, and I genuinely, a pair of everyday shoes of these will last me a year and a half, almost 2 years. Because
Wow.
again, that's how your foot is supposed to work. That's how it's supposed to move. If you want a very high-end barefoot shoe, you can look at Vivo Barefoot. They make a very luxury-looking shoe, which I know some people
Yeah.
enjoy. I'm in between. I'd rather go with just Zero Shoes because they're cheaper and, in my opinion, look more like everyday shoes. Where I think Vivos start to make a little bit of a barefoot statement, if you know what I mean. No.
Yeah.
Whereas the Zero Shoes, I like them because they just look like everyday shoes. Like
I
they
mean,
look like New
it's even
Balances, just without the extra BS.
Bells and like when I looked at the Hokas, I was like, dude, there's not a ten. They are making a very aggressive statement.
So here you go. This is, I actually didn't realize I had these under my desk. These are my everyday Xero shoes. I have had these shoes for 6 months. You ready to see the bottom of them?
No. Okay, now I am. Okay, yeah, fair.
Nothing. And they're designed with the wear pattern here and on your heel where you're supposed to make contact, not up on the toe like your Hokas.
Yeah. Well, it's one thing again. It's like these are shoes designed as actual shoes versus all the gimmicks of them. And so you have a pair of Xeros for every day. Sorry?
I said, do this with your Hokas. Try to roll them up into a ball. That's how much nothing these shoes are.
Yeah, and again, I remember putting it on, and I was like, it feels like compared to my other shoes I have some, I was like, this feels like my blown out iFly shoes that I wore every day, and didn't matter that there was nothing under them because I was literally barely on my feet. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so those are just every day. Those are your everyday shoes.
Everyday shoes. I wear those for literally everything. Going to the mall, walking, working out. Insert your favorite activity. I have some nicer ones for when I go out that aren't like.
So that is a shoe that you support of doing all the activities in that one shoe. Okay,
everything.
Noted.
You can do anything and everything in that shoe.
Every day. Then there's the running shoe. Then there's the whatever shoe. Yeah.
Then I have the hiking shoe, which is just a little bit thicker. And then I have a pair of running shoes, which are not actually barefoot shoes. They are thick running shoes that you use exclusively for running.
I was gonna say, like, dude, I my hat's off to you if you're doing your Ironman or marathons in fucking barefoot shoes.
And but that's the other part that I'm saying is running shoes are great. They're awesome if you're running in them.
Right.
But if you're walking around in shoes that are designed for you to be up on your toes and leaning forward and have no weight on your heels, yeah, you're going to fuck your foot up.
Interesting. Yeah, because, I mean, again, I walk around, and when I wore them, talk about a beacon of whatever is the amount of people that would be like, hey, man, nice Hokas. And I was like, what is going on? Like, is this not even, like, the Patagonia, the whatever, like, and it just made me laugh. But yeah, we wore them, like, it was like tons of airports, walking around Orlando or being on cruise ships, things like that. Like,
burn them.
They were everywhere, and I was like, man, yeah, the people wearing these, like myself, do not look like everyday runners. And yeah, so it was just very interesting. So I wanted to get your take on that because, yeah, that was the main thing is that, like, I was like, dude, I blew these out. And you're like, yeah, that's because you're an idiot. These are not, you don't wear these to the grocery store 365, taking them on and off every day. You wear them when you're running for that amount of time. So
yeah, it's not rocket science. Like, these shoes are designed for 300 miles. And if you walk 300 miles, you're going to do that a lot quicker than you're going to run 300 miles.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, so that's, like, it's, to me, you being in a very athletic and health inclined world, I just saw a very comfy, like, my buddy wore them, and I was like, can I try them on? I was like, these are comfy as shit. I'm getting them for life. And there's no information that's like, I think even when I got them, it's like they're, let me see. Like, it literally said, like, you search and it's Hoka running shoes. And yeah, these are the ones I got. The Bondi.
Yeah. People just walk in them.
And it's, yeah, they are, yeah, it's not like, oh, these are perfect for whatever. They literally say, like, running shoes. So that was kind of my question on, like, for your opinion on, like, at least that's literally the foundation basis of equipment necessary. When it comes to the other clothes, I think you do have to kind of be in whatever is comfortable, because it's your workout, you do it too.
And the other thing is, if you don't want to go buy barefoot shoes, I will encourage you to work out barefoot. Just put socks on. Lift barefoot, squat barefoot, do all the thing, jump rope barefoot. I promise you, you're going to see a change in your world almost overnight.
Yeah, so I mean, doing barefoot activities was very easy, but I think even further back from that's doing the actual workout, for me, the struggle was breaking my habit of not going to the gym and starting to implement a habit of going to the gym. And that is something I struggle with constantly. And again, these workouts, the adventure plan you've got me on, like, these are not long things. I think the longest thing is the running day because it's 10-minute warm up, 5-6 minutes of activity, 15-minute cool down. So that's still basically a 30-minute workout and you're like done. But it was the amount of excuses I come up with is mind-boggling to myself of doing things. So what from your advice of running marathons and Ironmans, what is the, like, can you even think back to getting the small stuff? You're like, dude, just do it.
Well, I did. Like there is a lot of times where you like avoid stuff, but you've got to practice just doing it. One of the big things that I created when I was like first starting the long races is I would just count down from 10 and I would tell myself at 0, no matter what, you have to do what's next, no matter what. And that's how I would get through races because there'd be times where you pull over and you walk and you're like, dude, I'm not running again. Just count down from 10. That's what you get. Count down from 10. Because it's all, let me tell you how easy it is for everything to go, I'll do it in 5 minutes. I'll do it in that minute. Or, you know what? They need this. They need that. You can come up with every excuse on the planet until you start holding yourself accountable. And if you don't hold yourself accountable, you're never going to get to anywhere you want to be. And you'll find every distraction under the sun. So
Right.
the biggest thing I can say is start with just counting down from 10, like just in your head, and let yourself, I allowed myself to bitch, complain. You can do whatever you want in that countdown. You could kick, you could fight, you could scream, but once you hit 0, you got to get the job done, period.
Okay. When it comes to exercise, like if you were if you were just constantly the little fish on my shoulder, are you, let's say, a purveyor of doing some's better than none? So
Yes.
if I'm supposed to run 10 miles and that's not happening. If I'm supposed to run 3 miles, we'll start with 5Ks, babe. If I'm supposed to run a 5K, just be like, all right, this is my big day, blah, blah. And I go out and after a mile and a half, I'm like, I'm fried, I'm in pain, I'm whatever, I'm quitting. Are you like, no, at least finish it, even if you walk it, whatever, or you can kind of stop there?
So there's two sides to that mentality, right? The question is, one, am I too tired to do this? And that's where you have to like have an actual intimate relationship with your body, which a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people don't
fair.
really understand what it is to actually push yourself. I have so many friends that are like, yeah, I worked out today. I went and played golf. And I'm like, bud, your heart rate didn't go over 40%. That is not, no, that's not a workout. That doesn't count. You
Go on.
you can go ahead and sit there and try to argue this all day, but if you're trying to genuinely strain yourself and push yourself, you have to reach higher heart rates and you have to reach higher thresholds from pushing. It's the overload principle. It's the basics of working out. Look it up. But if you have a conversation with yourself and you say, all right, I've got to run 3 miles today. But over the last week, you had your biggest week in mileage. Say you ran 20 miles last week and you've never ran 20 miles before. Yeah, you're probably tired. Your body probably needs a break. Right. So you showed up, you tried, that counts. But if you walk in and you go, look, I need to run 3 miles today. What did I do last week? Nothing. Okay, so my body has the energy to run 3 miles and it hurts and it sucks just because I haven't done this in forever. And that's where a lot of things do. They hurt and suck and are miserable at the beginning. But
right.
You have to have the conversation with yourself is, am I being a bitch or am I genuinely broken down? And that's where like right. I'm a super nerd and track all my stuff. So like I can look at my fatigue because I've been tracking my workouts for 10 years and I know how my body looks and I go, all right, man, I'm supposed to run 10 miles today. and my fatigue is higher than normal, I'm like, nope, that's only a 6er, or else we're going to get hurt, right? Because I'm overexerting myself. Or vice versa, I go, I really don't want to do this. And then you look at your fatigue and it's like nothing. You're like, oh, I'm just being a bitch.
Right. No, and to me it's interesting, like you said, the intimate knowledge of your body is very important. If you're pushing yourself, you're like, well, I need to do this, and then you get injured, it's like, well, now you're not going to do any activities for however long it takes to recover. For me, one of the biggest things was when I used to like fly, like skydive a lot. I'd get in the tunnel to fly and like just in the wrong headspace, and I go, this is a waste of my time and like money. I can't, I'm just not in a good space today. I need to go do a different activity today, kind of thing, of knowing myself that way of I'm not going to bitch out on an activity, but this one's not for me. So it's like if it's just general workouts and you're trying to do heavy leg day and nothing's going right and blah blah, like, all right, just go do some cardio. It's like whatever, you can switch it up, like you said, knowing yourself of. So it is better to not, like you said, bitching out, making excuses to not do it is a lot different than like, oh, you started trying but realized that this is not happening. Take the day, take some time, go extra stretch. All right, cool.
And that's when you look at yourself just like I always use war as an example. You don't win every battle. You don't. But if you show up, you at least slowed down the army and you pushed them back.
There, nice. You know? I dig it. I dig it hard. On another note, I think that it's funny to me. It's an insanely important science, something that I do not understand. Maybe we'll get better at when I start trying to actually delve into it more. But the science and analytics of working out to me are something I always used to kind of look down my nose at. Because like in college and stuff like that, when I was lifting my most, or when we started going to gym after college, blah blah, and I'd see guys with notebooks and they're writing it down, blah blah, and I was like, why track that stuff? If you're going to the gym, just if I did 45s last week and I pick up 45s, I feel too light, just go up and then like, mentally track. And then now I'm looking back, I'm like, one, all of my crazy athletic friends like you, Lance, everybody, the analytics you guys have are mind-blowing. Constantly looking at smartwatches, being like, yeah, this. I'm like, dude, you guys have it down to an ant's ass hair of exactly like calories, miles, height, declines, inclines, traversing, climbing, like everything. I'm just like, good on you. But it's like, it is that kind of dedication when you're in a top tier like you guys.
Well, not even necessarily. It's just knowing how to read the numbers, right? Like one of my biggest tells, and this is the biggest tell for anybody. Here's what you're going to do. If you have a tracking monitor of any way, shape, or form, look at your resting heart rate. So what your resting heart rate is that is when your parasympathetic nervous system basically is the only thing working. So it's not even, you're not activated, you're not on, right? You're asleep and your body's just at its lowest form of metabolic capacity, right? It's doing exactly what it needs to survive and no more. Now, your resting heart rate should be consistent within 2 or 3 beats, right? My resting heart rate is normally about between 40 and 45. If I'm in that range, I'm in a good spot. I know almost immediately when I wake up in the morning and I see my heart rate was at like 47 or 48, that my body was working too hard overnight for whatever reason. It was, I'm getting sick. I trained too hard. I X, Y, and Z. And I know immediately without skipping a beat, either I'm going to be sick or I need to take today off because my body will break tomorrow based solely on that number. I can look at that number and tell you exactly how I'm going to feel for the day.
Damn.
Yeah, and anybody can do that. Anybody. If you just look at your resting heart rate. And this is the thing that, for me, irritates the snot out of me because that is the most basic indicator of anything on the planet. And we don't talk about it in school. We don't tell a single kid to look at your fucking resting heart rate when you wake up in the morning. No. God, I can literally look at my watch from the night before and go, oh crap, it was at 47. I'm probably going to be sick tomorrow or whatever. And 9 out of 10 times without without a doubt. It's exactly spot on. Just because I have that intimate relationship with my body and know what's going on. Yes, start with resting
Yeah, and I
heart
mean,
rates.
well, like you said, it's dude. I did it. One, being off nicotine for the past 10 days has been interesting. Haven't had tons of crazy effects that I know of. I've like totally felt, but when I was using heavy doses of nicotine, it was in like the 90s, just like chilling. And I was like,
That's
I feel like that's
terrible.
not good.
That's that's terrible.
It was like, well, I put on Jera's mother's like smartwatch and she just put it to the mode. And I was like, well, I did just like chug a coffee and throw in a pouch and like we're running out the door. And I was like, let me just see it. And it was just chilling in the 90s. I was like, dude, this says I'm doing like a moderate workout and we're like walking to the car to go to the store. I was like, I might need to take some health choices here. Like,
Yeah,
but
and
like you
here's
said,
the other thing
things
is
that
like people don't think about it this way. So the reason that your resting heart rate is such a key indicator of health, the lower it is, that means the more efficient that your heart is. So essentially your heart has to beat less because you're getting more blood out, which is getting more nutrients and oxygen to your body. So if that's higher, there's a higher metabolic demand on you. Now, conversely, if you have a lower resting heart rate, the more work output you can put at those higher heart rates because you have more capacity inside of there. So if you see that you're at like 50 or 60% capacity just going out on a walk, you're asking to take years off your life because you're making your heart work that much harder just to survive.
right, that muscle is still doing its thing twice as hard as other people's.
Now, I will
Or should
preface, just walking around 93, there's nothing wrong with that because that's a fair demand when you're walking around and doing things. If you're sitting on a couch and you've been sitting down for 5 minutes and it's still at 93, you need to have a real conversation with yourself. Now, again, if you finished a 10-mile run, give yourself a little more than 5 minutes, all right? But it's going to take some time.
Right, yeah.
But if you just come off of the golf course and sit in your golf cart and you can't get it below 90, you got a problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, golf is a very, we're going to delve into this one, but golf is a very relaxing, easy sport where it is teeny bursts of high intensity effort, and that is it. Like swinging a 2-pound golf club to hit a ball, like when you play 18, like I'll come back and the next day I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit of muscle soreness because you just swung that thing. You know, for people that hit very averagely, you just swung a golf club like 80, 90 times. Mm-hmm. So it's not that there's no effort, but someone that's like, it's my workout, like, I mean, I call it, you know, what is it? Churchill said it's the best way to ruin a long walk is playing a round of golf. And if you're walking, like that's one of the things that's nice in Minnesota when it's nice and cool. I'll walk and I go, what'd you do today? I went on a very long walk. And that's basically it. Like, I'm not like, oh, I got my reps in. Like, no, you didn't. But
so let's transition this into, do you know who Peter Attia is?
I do not.
He's basically the leading expert in longevity. Like basically how long people live and what takes to get to live longer. His top 3 things in this order of predictors of longevity: exercise, diet, lifestyle. Okay? We're going to start from the bottom, work our way up. Lifestyle is how you just live every day. Are you sitting in a chair? Are you working an office job? Are you doing whatever? Are you biking to work versus walking to work? Are you doing X, Y, and Z, right? That's lifestyle. And golf, to me, not being a physically demanding activity, falls down way down there. And if you think golf is a physically demanding activity, I need to have a long conversation with you. So
physically demanding, no. Physical, yes. That's where I'll leave it.
2 different things.
Very much so.
With that, your lifestyle should be that of an active person. And an active person goes out and walks, does things outside, doesn't just order all their food and stay inside the house and X, Y, and Z. Like those are easy things we can talk about. Diet is the quality of stuff that you put into your body, which we all know if it came from the ground and the more natural the source is, the better off you're going to be. So the shorter it goes from, I'm going to use the plants for lack of a better term, the shorter it goes from the ground to your mouth, the better off you're going to be. The more steps in that process, the more bullshit that gets added to it and makes your life harder. Studies over time have showed us that as long as you stick to the normal shit, blueberries, raspberries, ground beef that wasn't factory made, like, you're going to be fine. You could eat really whatever you want and do your diet appropriately. It doesn't earn, you don't even really need to optimize it at that point. If you're eating tomatoes and ground beef, you're good, bud. Don't worry about it. But if you're going to the store and you're ordering 83% ground beef and it's not been grass fed and it hasn't been outside and they lived on the waters and it's been frozen for 6 months beforehand, you're probably screwing yourself over.
Right. If it's frozen and has a giant, conglomerate's name on it, it might not be the healthiest of meats.
But if you walk out back, pick tomatoes off of your tree and throw them in your mouth, dog, you're never gonna hurt yourself. Let me ask you this: name me one person that died from drinking apple juice. Who drank too much apple juice and died? No one. I mean, we don't say that though, but we don't tell kids that. We don't go, look, just drink apple juice and water or orange juice and water. You drink as much as you want.
Right. If you threw juices down instead of sodas, there'd be a very different,
be a completely different world.
But I mean that you can go to the depths of everything, and we've talked about it before that like people were blown away that Atlas at 18 months didn't have an iPad in his hand on the long flights, and we're like, yeah, it's gonna suck for us because we have to entertain him the whole time, but we're not taking this shortcut out. We're not getting fast food. We're going home and we're tired or not, we're cooking a meal versus doing that. Now, the problem with my lifestyle is that I make really good food, so I eat way too much of it. A meal that's supposed to have 6 servings lasts me.
That's not the
2.
problem with your lifestyle. That's not. The problem is you don't exercise.
This is also
It's
true.
not that you eat too much. You probably eat like a normal human, Nagy. You just don't exercise. Here's a great question. This is the question I'm going to pose to absolutely every human that is listening to our podcast. And if you can't come up with this answer in 10 seconds, you're wrong. What is your max heart rate?
Mine is like 170.
False.
I would say. Okay, I mean, I know it's
I can tell you that's false.
Okay.
So just off of basic math, 220 minus your age is the relative range. So you're going to be at 190, maybe 185 in that upper range, which means you haven't pushed your heart to its actual capacity in Lord knows how long, since you've never seen that number, right? When was the last time you can say you genuinely saw your max heart rate?
Saw it? Don't know. Felt it. I mean, hiking around.
But that's
Norway.
The thing is, now that's where I'm going to go layer onto it. Is you can say you felt it, but that's where the numbers come into play, because if you feel it, right? Feel it, and you haven't felt it before, you don't know what that feeling actually is. You just think, oh, my heart rate's elevated. I'm working hard, but you actually don't know how hard you're really working. Right? Because I teach a lot of people that and say, look, you're perceiving you're working hard, but you're really only working at 70% of your capacity. There's a whole 30 here, or in your case, probably about 15 or 20, that you probably have never even seen because you think that this is your limit because you feel that's your limit, as opposed to pushing that boundary and finding where it actually is.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but like I said, this is where it goes back to the gizmos and gadgets. If I'm doing leg day and I'm doing squats and deadlifts and tire flips, I know my heart rate's going to be up. But I'm like, if I see it and then go, okay, it's only at 160, means I can go even harder and push and push and push so it goes up. Like, well, is that what you're kind of saying?
Here's the thing: is if you get into training, Scarbit has you doing different types of days, right? He has you doing some that are
Correct.
easy, some that are hard and fast. Well, the hard and fast ones are where we push your body to its actual capacity. You are not going to get to your max heart rate in a 20-yard sprint. I dare any of you to run a half a mile all out. Run a half a mile all out, and you will find what your max heart rate is. You will get to that limit. But most people can't even make it that far. So their heart rate gets to where it needs to be and drops. So just for a lot of you people at home, your heart rate is actually on about a 90-second delay to the capacity of what you're working. So if you sprint 20 seconds, it's going to take a minute for your heart rate to get to its max capacity. So you're never going to actually get there if you only sprint for 20 seconds. So anybody who reaches their max
90 seconds.
Exactly. So anybody who reaches their max heart rate while doing tire flips for reps for 30 seconds, I'm concerned for you. Genuinely.
No, I mean, that's something I did not know.
Yep.
But it's also, like you said, this is not something taught, like, and this
It's
is
not-
not something that when I Google workouts, it's telling you.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to have you write more books so that we can get those out there and start
Yeah.
teaching people, including myself, how to work out more efficiently and better.
So that is just genuine heart rate knowledge and stuff. But if we go to the exercise portion of it, what we really train and what you're training inside of Scarbit and everybody's in Korath's system, for lack of a better term,
Right.
is you're training energy systems, which we have 3 that we really worry about in the body. The 2 major ones are the phosphocreatine system. That's your basically strong, explosive, fast movements, anything under 10 seconds. Think of a sprint, think of a max rep, anything, or you're doing reps for like 3 to 5, you know? Then you have slow glycolysis, which is basically how your body, fast glycolysis, which is how your body uses all the sugar and burns it up real quick. And that's generally for your mile runs or your half mile runs or anything that's going to be about 5 to 10 minutes or less. Then you move into slow glycolysis, which is your body just using all its metabolism in a full circle, right? So energy comes in, goes out, waste disposal goes up, you use the waste, it cycles back, right? This is where a lot of people's energy systems are really inefficient because they don't want to train that slow cycle. And that's why we're doing 10, 15-minute runs at a time where Scarbit's like, just go. Just get your heart rate up.
Right.
And he tells you that. He says, keep it easy, breathe,
Right.
talk. he's,
Yeah.
he's like, don't kill
Get
yourself.
through it. It's not a sprint. Just go faster.
And a lot of people have a hard time pushing those. But if you train those energy systems, your body will become as efficient as it possibly can. And that's where it lives longer. So Dr. Peter Attia says the number one predictor is exercise and how long people will live. So the more you exercise, the longer you're going to live. It's no questions asked. Not even, not like nobody's going to argue with it. They may say, diet plays a role, but nobody will argue that if you exercise, you're going to live longer. Because it decreases the rate of all-cause mortality because you're training all those different energy systems in your body. So you're training your liver, you're training your kidneys, you're training your heart, you're training your lungs. And that's why we train to energy systems, not cool, fun numbers.
Right. Okay. And it makes sense. I mean, it's funny because it reminds me that, like, so we're going to experience, like, our first winter here coming up. And I'm already wondering how many people are going to die this winter if it's a heavy snowfall from shoveling snow, which takes out so many people every year. Because it's, like you said, they sit around all year in an office, barely work out, and then they go shovel the driveway for 45 minutes of intensive workout and have like a cardiac episode. And it's
because
like,
they just don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you need to go out and shovel snow every day, but like in my eyes, I don't ever want to be to a point where I can't be self-sufficient. And if I am, I'm going to go off into Alaska and you can I'll give you a big hug and a kiss and I'll say, Nagy, you're never going to see me again. Or maybe in the afterlife that we both mildly kind of sort of believe in, right? Like,
Right.
kiss you, love you, and I'm going to go figure it out on my own. But here's the thing is nobody can argue with this. It's cool to be strong and self-sufficient. It's cool to be strong enough to help others and get them to where they need to go. And I think a lot of people forget that and lose those aspects of how we share our gifts with people. And just as a human, you can get that gift just by showing up for yourself, just by showing up.
Right.
And I try to tell people that exercise isn't for you. Exercise is for you, but it's for everybody around you. Because if you don't work out, you're going to die faster and you're going to become a burden onto other people in society. But if you can take care of yourself and you can live longer, you are going to take less off the world and you're going to be able to help more people and help them grow and get to bigger and better places. Whereas if you don't take care of yourself, you become a problem to the system.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure you saw this just as much as me, but one of the biggest things on ships was you're sitting there doing gangway, and I think it's a message to all the men out there is take extra steps, because the amount of elderly couples where you have this adorable old lady shuffling along and then you have a male or like the guy and he's either barely making it with like a walker or he's in a like electric wheelchair or things like that. And I was just like, I remember looking at that constantly, just like you said, like, I don't want to be dependent on someone else where, you know, this little poor old woman who can barely hold her purse up is now helping her husband get in and out of his wheelchair, get onto an elevator, things like that.
Now, here's the layer deeper. They're wearing a happy 65th birthday sign, and you're like, you're 65 and in a goddamn wheelchair? What are we doing? Like, that happened almost every single time. And you meet these guys.
Yeah.
And here's the other part that nobody really ever says, is when you see somebody and it's like, oh, they're celebrating their 85th birthday. That person's never in a wheelchair. They're always walking around and efficient and doing their own thing. And yes, they can't see or read or maybe need a little help with stairs. That's part of
They're not
time,
perfect, but
right?
like, they're still there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they're not completely self-sufficient, but like, he can get up and go to the bathroom on his own. And that's the big difference that I tell people is you never hear of anybody who died at like 85 or 90 and go, man, that's sad. You go, wow, what a fucking life.
Right. Yeah. No, and I mean it is various, but it goes down to taking care of yourself. And something I'm trying to put in my regimen. I am not hitting full bore on this. I am easing my way into it because I am way too much when I tried to run 3 miles every day. I made it a fucking week and a half and got crazy shin splints and then quit. And I was like, okay, I'll run. A month later, didn't run anymore. Like, going too big too fast is the dumbest thing.
So here's something that I think you should hear, because it is from the book called Atomic Habits, and it's perfectly leading into these things. So one of the first things that it says, which is a very hard argument for Nagy, is focus on small changes. Small adjustments to your behavior can lead to lasting improvements. So that's an easy one for all of you guys that are trying to change your health. Start with one thing. Start, if it's going for a run on Mondays, if it's whatever, you were dead on with that, starting small. The other thing that I really like is break down the habit into a manageable task. Okay? So, is the gym too far away, too long, you can't get there and do X, Y, and Z, right? Nagy, do you have kettlebells at home?
I do.
Is that easier than going to the gym?
It is.
Okay, so that's an easy one. Make the habit smaller and convenient for you. Because if you try to make it the whole hullabaloo, if you're like, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to hit the ice bath, I'm going to hit the steam room, I'm going to hit the sauna, I'm going to do all the things, you've blown 2 hours out of your day that you don't normally have in your day, and you're like, man, I'm never going to be able to repeat that again, so I'm just not going to go back because that was way perfect the way it was. And you're like, bud, just start start with the littles. The other thing that
Right.
I really like is they talk about use the habit stacking. So try to make things convenient together. Okay. So is going for a run awesome? Nod your head yes. Just nod your head yes.
Okay.
Is going for a run with Disney killing two birds with one stone, because now Disney gets a walk and gets to get stuff out of his system, and you got to get your run out of it.
Correct.
So try to stack things so they all build together. And then when you come home, you're like, you know what? I'm going to eat healthy because I've already started doing this. So I'm going to have my blueberries for the day, or so on and so forth. Go about it by putting the things together and making other things all build compounding. How many times have I told
Okay.
you when you're sitting there with Atlas to do your kettlebells?
All of them.
How hard is it to do at that time?
Mixed, but I adapted. It's not. The answer is it's not. The true hard answer is that, like, this is what happened last night, is I was doing squats and things like that, and Atlas starts running around me, and the last thing I want to do is lower a 25 or 40 pound kettlebell onto his head. So I put that down because Atlas weighs about 23 pounds. So I just picked him up. So I was playing with Atlas and doing my squats at the same time, and Atlas loved it because I'm like putting him down and then squatting and reaching him up, and he was having a blast. And after like 15 reps, he's like, "What are we doing?" I was like, "Just 5 more, bud." And then I put him down, he ran away, and I could pick up the kettlebells again. So the answer is mixed, but very doable.
And then now Atlas gets to watch you do all that cool shit, and that becomes a normal part of his life because he goes, oh, this is what dad does. This is how dad does it.
Right.
Right? Whereas if he just sees you sitting around playing on your phone, I'm not saying you do this, but metaphorically,
No.
if he sees you sitting down playing on your phone, what habit do you think he's going to pick up?
Correct. And I think I've already realized, Jared and I have both realized that it's crazy habit forming where Jared and I constantly call each other out. Like, hey, put your phone down. For her, it's usually work emails. For me, it's, finding a funny meme to her or something like that anyway. But it like almost breaks my heart. Put my phone down to play with him, and he'll walk by, grab it, and bring it back to me. And I'm like, oh no, like he's associating like, oh, you need this in your hand. Here, put this back. I'm like, and I literally will take it and throw it. Be like, I don't need that right now. I'm with you. And he like looks at it and he's like confused, like, okay. And then, I'll grab a different toy and stuff like that. But yeah, back to positive habit forming. It's crazy getting into this with this workout adventure of implementing it and also looking back and being like, okay, if I just did a 30-minute workout, that was awesome. But what was I doing before this? Like, how much time have I been wasting in my daily life that, like, I always complain to you, like, Chris, I just don't have the time for this. I'm doing Disney, I'm doing dinner, I'm doing house, blah, blah. And now that I'm putting it in, it's like, okay, there is time. So where are these excuses coming from?
Yep.
And that's scary as shit. I'm not going to lie. Like, that is the scariest thing is, I like to brag and boast that I'm not really on social medias and I only look at Reddit and stuff like that when we're in bed getting ready for bed. But it's like, what the f- am I doing with the rest of my time that I'm making up these excuses and doing? And hopefully I can look back in months and be like, yeah, I'm glad I'm doing these 30 to maybe hour-long workouts now instead of whatever the hell else I was doing during that time. Mm-hmm. But it's scary. And again, I think I will say, speaking as a layman's, and I will put myself in the general crowd more, it's creating new habits is probably one of the scariest and hardest things, no matter how beneficial or positive I want them to be. Like, as simple as working out or being on your phone less or taking your dog out more. Like, starting those new habits is like almost scarier than being in denial and unhappy that you're not doing something.
Yeah.
Because at least it's like the comfortability.
And here's one that I really like. Align your habits with your identity. We have joked about before that if you didn't drink, would be the greatest athlete that probably came around. And you identify as I am the greatest drunk athlete ever. Whereas opposing to identify as just the greatest athlete ever. So have your identity align with your habits, aka I want to be a badass. I believe in my head I'm a badass. So I train and work out like I'm a badass. That's how I'd like to see myself in the world. Whereas if you see yourself as the athletic fat guy, guess what you're going to be for your whole life?
Yeah.
The athletic fat guy.
Yeah. It's a very interesting point of it. And I think each person has to fight their own demons on this. Mm-hmm. Because I would even test, how often do you look in the mirror?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Naked probably twice a day when I get in the shower. I always flex in the mirror and look at my ass. Like just
yeah.
If
checking out the goods. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I would say that's a very common thing. And people with more of a negative self-image don't. And it's also like, I mean, for me it was personally ships. We had the mirror in our bathroom. You had the mirror on the door. Those were the two. So you could always kind of double check. But I looked in the mirror a lot more because there was so many outfit changes, especially formal stuff like that. And that's when I was more concerned with looking better, feeling better, doing that kind of stuff. In a lot of my everyday life, I don't really look in the mirror. And a lot of times when I do, I'm actually not super happy with what I see. And it is like, I'm not going in the mirror and flexing. I don't even know the last time I flexed in the mirror. Been like, yeah, check that out. Because it's every person's different belief of, like you said, if you're going to implement these different things, idolize them, make them, personify them. Like, that's what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also another part of a journey that I need to start taking steps on, is I need to start wanting to look in the mirror and liking what I see versus just ignoring mirrors because it's like, well, that's me. And that's what it's going to be.
Dude, make your avatar the way you want it to be. This is my avatar.
Right.
This weird Spider-Man looking thing that weighs 145 pounds with a beard.
But yeah, it's I think there's so many different aspects, but the handshake, that the psychological and physical aspects of positive lifestyles and stuff like that are to each different person. Mm-hmm. And for me, the personal battles I'm fighting, I think I would say could be tied to a lot more of the average Joes out there. But it's what separates me from a lot of the things is just that final step, or that first step even, of let's start making this small change to make these things better.
Back to the quote from before: the journey to heaven looks like hell, but the journey to hell looks like heaven. Do more hard shit.
It's a beautiful.
Do more.
Yeah. Do more hard shit because it's not going to be a bad thing.
Yeah. That's what I got.
Cool beans. Well, thanks for cruising in with us. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Make some good habits of joining us each and every week.
Till next time, ladies and gentlemen.